This guy was laying on the floor with the gurney on his back. These are the kinds of things you're going to be seeing if you're working in an emergency department. In the last 2 years, emergency department healthcare workers have seen a dramatic increase in the levels of anxiety, stress, and burnout. I have witnessed hundreds of my colleagues and former colleagues leave the emergency department. And no, they're not simply leaving because they want to try something new. The majority of them have left because of the assault on their profession from every angle you could possibly think of, whether it's the increased acuity level of patients coming to the ED or patients and the general population showing a complete disregard for their own health as well as the health of their loved ones. Or could it be that entire hospital systems carelessly allow employees to work with unsafe staffing levels? Or maybe it's because these employees were left to fend for themselves when PPE was in short supply at the beginning of the pandemic. It could also be that employees were told to come to work even when testing positive for COVID, causing them to put their colleagues and their patients' lives at risk. And the nail on the coffin, I think, is the fact that we are witnessing elevated, more frequent occurrences of violent patients injuring and even killing hospital employees. On June 2nd, Michael Lewis, who police said killed himself after the rampage in Tulsa, Oklahoma, had just earlier that afternoon legally purchased an AR-15 style rifle. He entered a physician's office building at Tulsa's St. Francis Hospital campus and shot dead his surgeon, another doctor, a receptionist, and a patient in the office building. There's also a recent incident of a jail inmate who shot and killed a security guard at Miami Valley Hospital.
Montgomery County Jail inmate stealing a security guard's gun, shooting the guard, then shooting and killing himself.
We start with breaking news in Conroe where a patient fired shots inside of a hospital.
Thankfully, no one was hurt. Let's bring in Ron Trevino now with an update on what happened. Ron.
Well, Reka, the patient fired shots at EMS workers who were able to quickly disarm the woman. It all took place just before noon at the HCA Conroe Hospital emergency room, which is along the north. At 11:42, that patient arrived at the ER. Her arms and legs were secured to the gurney. While doctors were distracted, the patient pulled out a gun from a holster under her dress and fired 2 rounds. One of the EMS workers disarmed her. As you said, Reka, luckily nobody was hurt.
So a line has to be drawn somewhere, and nurses are drawing this line in large numbers across the country. Now, I'll tell you from my personal experience, I've gotten to the point where I feel like I am done with the emergency department. My first nursing job as a new grad was in a telemetry floor. I worked there for about a year. After that year, I thought getting a job at New York Presbyterian in the emergency department was going to be life-changing in a positive way. But honestly, the emergency department has become so toxic that I don't even think I want to do it anymore. At this point, I've been an emergency department nurse for 9 years, and I think it's 9 years way too much. And if this current trend continues, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to continue working in an emergency department. And I recently applied to a PACU position that I had to turn down, and I wish I could have taken it, and I would have, had they allowed me to start 1 week later than my expected start date, because Monica and I have already purchased a non-refundable vacation that we wanted to go on with our kids this summer. And I'm sure another opportunity will come up in the future to work in the PACU, and I'm definitely going to take it up should that be the case, because the levels of exhaustion that I come home with every single day working in an emergency department is more than I and many other emergency department nurses that I know are willing to take. So if you've ever considered working in an emergency department, keep that in the back of your mind. Emergency nursing is not going to be easy. It is extremely challenging. Every time you come in, you better be prepared to hit the door running. The types of patients you're going to be getting are going to have mental health issues. They're going to be geriatric patients that are severely ill coming from nursing homes. You're going to have patients with dementia that are going to have high risks for falls, and you will see falls in the emergency department. You're also going to have to prepare yourself because you're going to see things that you would have never thought you'd ever see in your life. I remember at one of my jobs when we had a mentally ill patient who must have been like 6'6", 6'7". This guy was huge, but he was having a mental health crisis, and this patient had to be restrained at the time because he was both verbally and physically abusive with the staff. No matter what medication we gave him, it did not faze him, and he was having such a psychotic episode that he grabbed the gurney he was laying on and he flipped it over with him attached to it. This guy was laying on the floor with the gurney on his back. These are the kinds of things you're going to be seeing if you're working in an emergency department. And I know everything I said so far are the negative aspects of working in an emergency department, department, but there are also positive things about working in an emergency department. For example, working in an emergency department will give you the most flexible schedule you can possibly think of. The emergency department that I work in has per diem shifts, 12-hour shifts per week, 16-hour shifts, 20-hour shifts, 24-hour shifts, 28, 30, 32, 36, and 40-hour shifts per week. We also have the option to work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., 3 p.m. to 3 a.m., 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 11 p.m. to 11 a.m., or you can work 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., 7 p.m. to 3 a.m., 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. They even have 4-hour shifts where you can work 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. or 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. and the list goes on. Another great benefit of working in the emergency department is that they offer so much overtime if you want to work overtime, whereas procedural units barely offer any overtime at all. And if you want to go on vacation, you're more likely to get a vacation approved in the emergency department than any other unit because there are hundreds of other nurses in the department that you can swap your shifts with in order to make your vacation work. And another positive thing about working in the emergency department is that if you're the type of person that likes to see several different cases per day, then you're definitely going to see that working in the ER. I mean, all of these reasons are part of the reasons why I'm still working in the emergency department. There's almost never been a case where I haven't been able to take a vacation when I wanted to take a vacation. And if you guys have been following me for the past year or so, you would know that I currently work 20 hours a week, and if I swap one of my shifts with an employee that I work with, I'm able to take 9 days off every other week. I don't even have to use my paid time off anymore if I don't want to. But again, the reason I'm able to work 20 hours a week is because Monica is a per diem nurse and she absolutely loves her job and she's always picking up extra shifts whenever they need her. And you know what? She actually gets way more overtime than I do. Even when she's working a 16-hour shift, they still ask her if she wants to stay after her 16-hour shift because they're so short-staffed on the tele and med-surg floors. But she obviously has to turn them down because they're not even gonna allow her to work more than 16 hours in one day. So are you somebody who wants to work in an emergency department? Or are you somebody who has worked in an emergency department your entire life and are looking to make a change in your career? Well, you know what? Regardless of the specialty you choose to get into, I made a video recently showing which states pay CRNAs the most amount of money. So if you want to leave the ER or you haven't gotten there yet and you want to be a CRNA, make sure you watch that video.